This man was one of the greatest soul singers of all time, leading the second generation of the renowned Temptations and establishing a successful solo career. This vocalist's immediately recognizable voice and personal charm earned him a place among the most respected vocalists of our time. Once a temptation, always a temptation may have been the slogan, but no one put it to the test more than this man, who joined, left, and rejoined the group 3 times. The centerpiece of today's video is all about Dennis Edwards. Before we start, let's be sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and push the notification bell to be sure you won't miss on any more uploads. Now without further ado, let's cue that intro. Born Dennis Edwards Jr. on February 3, 1943 in Fairfield, Alabama, about 8 miles from Birmingham, to Reverend Dennis Edwards Sr. and Idessa Fuller. He started singing at the age of 2 at his father's church. The Edwards family relocated to Detroit, Michigan when Edwards was around 10 years old. He continued to sing at his father's church and eventually became choir director. As a child, Edwards joined the Mighty Clouds of Joy, a gospel singing group, and attended the Detroit Conservatory of Music to study piano and composition. After realizing that Sam Cooke had shifted from gospel to secular music, Dennis Edwards and the Firebirds formed in 1961. His mother disapproved of a secular music career, thus he was not permitted to sing or listen to secular music at home. In 1961, Edwards recorded "I Didn't Have To, But I Did" for the rare Detroit label International Soulville Records. Back with Johnny on the Spot. From January 1961 until December 1963, Edwards was a field artilleryman in the United States Army, spending most of his time stationed in Europe. After leaving the military in 1966, Edwards auditioned for Detroit's Motown Records with the aid of James Jamerson, and he was signed but placed on retainer. Although Edwards wanted to be a solo artist, he was asked to join the Contours when its lead vocalist Billy Gordon became unwell. A year later, the Contours opened for the Temptations, and Temptations members Eddie Kendricks and Otis Williams saw Edwards and introduced him. They were considering replacing their own lead vocalist, David Ruffin, a close friend of Edwards. Later in 1967, Edwards left the Contours and was put back on retainer. He tried to get free from his contract since Holland Dozier Holland had promised to sign him to their new label, Invictus Records. However, he was conscripted in late June 1968 to join the Temptations, who had recently expelled Ruffin from the group. Ruffin had informed Edwards that he was being drafted as his replacement, which eased Edwards' conscience about replacing him. Ruffin was good friends with Edwards, but that didn't mean he wouldn't criticize him. Ruffin, who was attempting to rejoin the group, would crash the stage during Edwards' lead vocals on arguably the best song that Ruffin sang on Ain't Too Proud to Beg. He performed such actions for approximately a month until, according to Edwards, the group decided to lay off Edwards with the possibility of a solo deal with Motown and rehire Ruffin instead. When Ruffin failed to show up for his return performance in Gaithersburg, Maryland the next night, Edwards permanently retained, and the Temptations refused to consider rehire Ruffin. Edwards spent the next 9 years in that role, his gritty leads fueling such songs as Cloud 9, I Can't Get Next to You,
Next to you, I just can't.
all the confusion. And Psychedelic Shack. As well as the groundbreaking singles. Papa Was a Rolling Stone.
I never got a chance to see him. Never heard nothing.
And Masterpiece.
Ain't alive, 'cause in the ghetto, only the strong survive.
He left for the first time in 1977, returned in 1979, and left again in 1983. In 1984, Motown relaunched Edwards' solo career, and he had a hit with the 1984 single, Don't Look Any Further, which is a favorite of many fans.
Wanna taste a little paradise.
Rockin' all night long.
It narrowly missed the top of Billboard's R&B chart. There weren't many numbers that better combined sensuality, vocal assertiveness, excellent production, and a superb arrangement. The follow-up, You're My Aphrodisiac, was a top 20 R&B single, but things didn't cool considerably.
Specialist. All you do is look at me.
Coolin' Out was Edwards' final hit, peaking at number 23, but he returned to the Temptations in 1987.
Coolin' out. Most of my money's gone.
Edwards briefly collaborated with ex-Temptations David Ruffin and Eddie Kendricks as the trio Ruffin, Kendricks, Edwards, but nothing was ever published. In 1989, he and other Temptations members were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He continued to perform for the next 3 decades, first as the leader of Dennis Edwards and the Temptations, following a legal disagreement with original group member Otis Williams. He was forced to change his group's name, as the Temptations review featuring Dennis Edwards. Edwards had a romance with singer Aretha Franklin, who said he inspired her 1972 soul ballad Daydreaming. Edwards supposedly dumped Franklin for Ruth Pointer of the Pointer Sisters, whom he eventually married. The couple had one daughter, Issa Pointer, who joined her mother's singing group. Edwards passed away in an Illinois hospital on February 1st, 2018, 2 days before his 75th birthday. He had been suffering from meningitis before his passing.
Music world mourning the loss of a Motown legend this weekend. Former Temptations lead singer Dennis Edwards died yesterday in Chicago. The Grammy Award winner joined the group back in 1968. His voice ended up defining the legendary group, whose hits include Cloud 9, Papa Was a Rolling Stone, My Girl, the list goes on and on. Edwards was the last original Temptation still alive before his death. Get this, today would have been his 75th birthday.
There were significant concerns about Edwards' passing, as there were alleged reports of elder abuse. As reported by the Detroit News, an emergency protection order filed in January by the Healthcare Consortium of Illinois, which investigates elder abuse cases for the state, alleges the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee suffered from neglect and abuse at the hands of his wife, Brenda Edwards, in the last months of his life. Dennis Edwards fell ill in 2017, reportedly from meningitis, and was in and out of the hospital, although one of his daughters, Issa Pointer Stewart, who was appointed the singer's power of attorney, said she never heard his doctor say he had meningitis. Late last year, Brenda Edwards moved him from the St. Louis area to a luxury high-rise apartment building on Michigan Avenue in Chicago, family said. While there, Edwards underwent a stint in rehab at the Shirley Ryan Ability Lab to remove a ventilator he had been using for much of the year. After Edwards was released from rehab and sent home, an investigation was launched by Adult Protective Services after he initiated a complaint. Pointer Stewart said Tuesday, on January 12th, a protection order was filed against Brenda Edwards on Dennis Edwards' behalf in Cook County Circuit Court by Bella Greer of the Healthcare Consortium of Illinois. On Friday, Brenda Edwards reported to a hearing that was scheduled in the case. But according to a clerk at the court, the order in such a case would be vacated if the person on whose behalf the petition was filed died. Citing privacy laws relating to adult protective services, Greer told the Detroit News that she couldn't comment directly on the case, but confirmed that her name was on the order. The protection order states there was an attempt to suffocate Edwards by holding his head face down on the bed, and he had been deprived of his hearing aids. Edwards, according to the document, was bedbound and immobile. The protection order also alleges a history of abuse by the respondent, Brenda Edwards, and requires that his cell phone, hearing aids, and iPad be given back. Dennis Edwards was removed from the residence regarding medical issues. The protection order further reads, Edwards' daughters Denise Edwards and Pointer Stewart said they did not want to comment directly on the allegations of abuse because of the police investigation.
Meantime, Chicago police are investigating the death of Temptations lead singer Dennis Edwards. There are allegations involving his wife, who spoke today to TOO investigator Brad Edwards.
Were you able to see your husband in his final days?
No, I was not.
The man who crooned the world over died last week at Mercy Hospital. His wife, she told me in a phone interview, was prohibited from seeing him since January 3rd.
My husband was a wonderful man.
Two investigators obtained this order of protection. It alleged wife Brenda Edwards attempted to suffocate her husband by holding him face down on a bed. We posed that question.
Tried to suffocate him.
It's untrue.
She spoke to us from St. Louis, where the Edwards lived until moving here after Mr. Edwards suffered a stroke. Edwards, a rock and roll Hall of Famer whose volcanic voice claimed hits like Cloud 9 and Papa Was a Rolling Stone, spent his dying days in Chicago.
Was there ever any abuse in the relationship?
Never.
You say these allegations are false. Why do you think someone made these allegations against you?
I'm gonna find out.
Dennis Edwards' autopsy results are pending. His wife is planning his funeral, likely to be held in St. Louis. She says the allegations against her are a money grab and vows she will clear her name.
Tonight about the days leading up to the death of Temptations singer Dennis Edwards.
This news has come as a shock. Edwards had been ill for months following a stroke, but now there are new allegations of abuse involving his wife. We bring in Larry Spruill, who has a look at the police investigation that's now going on into his death. Larry.
Yeah, Devin, police are now investigating this case as the investigation shows that his wife is under center of this investigation. Now, today she addressed those claims of her abusing her husband before his death. He was a member of one of the most famous Motown music groups ever, the Temptations. Dennis Edwards died last week at a Chicago hospital. His wife, Brenda Edwards, told several media outlets he died from meningitis complications, but the Cook County Medical Examiner's Office says Edwards' cause of death is under investigation. I spoke with spokesperson Becky Schuckerman with the Cook County Medical Examiner's Office. She tells me in this statement, an autopsy was performed and the results are pending at this time. The cause and manner of death is pending. All deaths that fall under the jurisdiction of the medical examiner are investigated. News reports claimed last month an agency that investigates elder abuse claims filed an emergency protection order stating the 74-year-old Edwards suffered from neglect and abuse in his final weeks at the hands of his wife.
Eventually, the cause of Edwards' passing was revealed, and it revealed no signs of abuse. Now, before we go, I have a question for you all. What is your favorite song by Dennis Edwards?